take time, focus and it'll be fine, girl.
Okay, so just to introduce us again, my name is Stuart Ford from Stuart Ford Fitness and Martial Arts Instruction. This is Wednesday the 27th of May, and this is the second week of my Coach in the Box live intro series, which have been broadcasted live on Zoom. I have Marion here with me today. She's going to be taking part in this session, and we are doing rehab in a box. So this is the rehab session, the second week of that, and we're going to be looking at how to release various muscle groups. And last week we was looking at the posterior chain, of how to go to release problems in the posterior chain, the hamstrings, the buttocks, the back. And this week we're going to be looking at the lateral chain, and by that I mean down the side of the body here, but more so I'm working a bit lower down from the kind of lumbar area down. So this could involve any kind of issues like pain around your QL area here in the back of your so off to your back, but off to the sort of the side of your back, and the QL's the kind of a diagonal brace that holds your spine steady, if you like. Do a few other things, so you can get some pain there. You can get some pain in your side of your hip and buttock, down the side of your thigh, which is your IT band area. It can also manifest down the side of your shin and the back and the side outer calf here as well, sometimes as well towards the front of the shin a little bit. So it can come all the way down. That can be something to do with a neurological thing, with the sciatic nerve that comes out from the lower lumbar vertebra and out through the buttock here. But it also can be something to do with muscles further down the chain. Okay, so we're going to look at how we can accompany that, or we can approach that. And just pointing out, as I did to Marion earlier, I've knocked the back wall here through today, so you can see out to the lovely garden out back, my oriental garden, with the decking there and the canopy. Okay, so let's crack on. So what we're going to do first of all is looking at, as usual, is how to release the muscles. And so I'll roll out a mat here. You don't have to have a mat if you've got a carpet, but if you don't have a carpet, or you're worried about getting stains on there, not you're going to stain it with your body necessarily, then you can roll the mat out there. Right, now the first thing I'm going to take is the foam roll here. So we're going to look at releasing all the muscles in this chain from the calf all the way up to the back, and the implements that we can use for that. So I've got my foam roll here, okay, the orange Reebok foam roll, quite a nice consistency. It's not too hard, not too soft, and if you might have something like a rumble roller here, with the little knobbles, which is okay. They can be a little bit firm for this, but we want a more of a generalised area to start. So I'm going to put myself down onto the floor here, and I'm going to start off doing the outer shin and the calf. So you place the foam roll down, you can place the leg on top. So you can do this side on, but for this kind of posterior and outer calf here, is what I'm going to focus on here. You can do a sitting position, and I can just turn the foot outwards, and then we can edge ourselves forwards, and then we can always have the other leg on top as well to apply some additional pressure. And feel free to move that around a bit to start. You can use your hands to pluck yourself up and lift yourself around if you can. If you're really struggling with that, you can come down onto your elbows, and you might be able to do that a little bit easier. So just take the pressure off of your wrists, for example. And you can also come down onto your back and just lift your bottom up. So either way, whichever way you find it easier, we'll do that. So we're just going to search around, and with the foam roll we're always looking to start just to scan the area, trying to find tight muscles, and then we can focus on the most tender spot and just keep it on there. Have a little bit of a wiggle around if you like. If it's too tender, just keep it still. We want to try to keep that muscle nice and relaxed. Okay. And how long you spend on that is up to you, and however long that takes to release a little bit. But we're generally looking at the muscle releasing by about 75%. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So we're going to just turn the left foot over, put it on top. So of course I'm doing this as if I'm training with you, so taking part in the session myself. Just cutting it a little bit shorter than I'd generally spend if I was having a good release in a particular muscle area. Just depends what sort of state that muscle's in. So I'm doing that kind of outer back calf. It's like that ridge of the outer calf muscle. So it's not entirely turned over the foot. Okay. So another area that we could do, if we could add on to this actually, is the outer hamstring. And it sometimes gets involved in a similar kind of a feel, something lower down the leg here. I'm just going to focus on the lower head down here, where it's attached to the femur. So you can just place your leg on here. Now we had these implements that we used last time. If you want to use your hands, yeah, but you're struggling to get high enough, which you can lift up with. What you can also do, as we mentioned just earlier and last week as well, is you can come down onto your elbows, or you can go down onto your shoulders and just lift up. Then you can put the other leg on top as well. So we're looking at just turning the leg over slightly so it's towards the outer hamstring. And I'm just going to do this sat up and use my little props here. Just listening to that muscle, see if that needs any work. Mine aren't feeling too bad there at the moment, but yours might be. And just come down till you feel that kind of ache a little bit. Again, I've got my leg kind of slightly turned over off to the side here. If you're on your shoulders, you just be doing the same thing, rotating your waist off to the side. Okay, and just do the same thing on the other side there. Yeah, you don't have to use these. Certainly when you get a certain distance forwards, and if you've got the flexibility to lean forwards, and you can get your weight over the top. If people are struggling to bend that far forwards, you may find that you're going to keep yourself back here. They're on your elbows, back on your back. So just turn that over with a little bit of a wiggle. And what we're trying to do with the foam roll is we're trying to press the muscle between the foam roll and the bone. So if you haven't got that, then you're not actually going to be pressing into the muscle that you're aiming for. Okay, so after we've done the little release there, same as from last time, we'll look at this this sequence of releasing first of all with the massage technique, and then we can do the stretch. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sit back with the bottom. I've got my left knee bent, hands on my knee, and I can just lift my toes, or I can put the heel forwards a little bit as well and lift the toes up. Doesn't have to go very far. And I'm pushing the hip back and out to the side. I think we did this stretch on the last session as well, just as a variation of the hamstring stretch. You push to the outside, and then you can turn the toes inwards as well. You're going to get to that outer hamstring. So here we're just kind of separating out the leg down. I've got my hips plucked up in the air and my back arched to pull the hamstring stretch from the top end, and then the toes lifted to pull the hamstring from the other end. Yeah, you do this with a rounded back, you're going to miss that. Okay, and then we can do the same on the other side. And sit back, push the hips back and out to the side. So it's going up diagonally backwards. Can't see here, I can do that from the back. You have to look at my back for a second. I'm just pushing the bottom over to the left hand side and then pulling the toes inwards as well, rotating them in. Okay, so we've got that line that we've just hit with the foam roll. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to go back and I'm going to kind of focus on the outside of the leg a bit more. Just move those to the side. So we're going to come back down to the floor, foam roll down again. I'm turning this time right onto my side, so I've got my elbow on the floor. And put the other leg on top if I like as well. And if you wanted to, if you can, you could lift off the floor. You can use both the hand and the elbow to give that support. But if you're struggling with that, then just leave yourself down on the floor. You could place the arm down flat, and then you might find that easier again to lift the hips off the floor and get a little bit of extra pressure. So I'm right on the outer shin at the moment. I'm going to stay up here on my forearm. Again, if you like to stay down on the shoulder, that's easier than you can do. And then just move that around, listening for the tight areas. You don't generally have to go down past kind of 2/3 down from your knee. The first 2/3 are generally the best part. And just gradually moving up and down. I feel quite a nice ache on the side of my shin there. Another thing you can do to just rest down for a second there, as part of your foam rolling technique, is you can sort of called pin and stretching. You're holding the muscle on the foam roll whilst you stretch it. So in this case, if it's the side of the shin, I could turn my foot inwards, so that's inverting my foot, and that means that the outer shin muscles, the perineals, are going to stretch and pull through over the top of the foam roll. So I can pull them through. Again, I'll place the weight on there and do that. And I can move to a different section, further down. And if you get on the right spot, you might well find that that helps to stretch as well. And you can do that with all of these foam roll techniques. We're going to go on to the outside thigh as well. But what we'll do is we'll change over. Where are we? Yeah, we'll change over just so we don't tire ourselves out too much on the one side. So we want to be able to last some time. So we're changing over to the other side. The other shin's on there. The other leg on top I'm doing to get some extra pressure, and then I would lift off the floor. But again, you can leave the shoulder on the floor like that, and then lift the hip up. And doing these also tends to be good for your core, especially if you're holding yourself in these positions. Again, just moving around, listening for those tight areas. And this side as well. It's got a nice tightness to it. You'll often find one side tends to be worse than the other, especially obviously if you've got some kind of an issue down one side of your body, whether it's low down or further up. You'll tend to find that you have a continuity on that side of it being worse. Again, you can do that pin and stretch thing, so I'll just rest that down. A little bit so you can see my foot. I'm just lifting my left foot, inverting it up into the air, different stages, so it's pulling the muscle through. Okay, and then we're going to go all the way around again and back to the right side and the IT band. Now people often find this is quite a tender one, so be prepared. You've not done this before, and you might just find that you're happier with one leg on rather than putting the other leg on top. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a little bit higher. I'm going to bring my top leg right over the top. I'm going to use this foot and this elbow if I can to balance on the floor, and then lift myself up. So I'm using this hand and my elbow to balance and the foot, and then just gradually working yourself down, shifting your elbows in, trying to keep your elbow below your shoulder if you can, so you can feel that press in, and just slowly work. people tend to run over it a bit quick because they're trying to hide from that pain that you can get. What we'd rather be doing is doing it slowly and keeping the muscle as relaxed as possible, and just creep. So if you're struggling with that ache and that pain, just creep along at the speed that can manage. Okay, you see that. And as you get towards the top of the thigh, what you can do is you can roll your waist forward slightly, so you're facing the floor a little bit more with your hips and your chest. Because the IT band, which is what we're running along here, is like a hard sheath, fibrous sheath running up the side of the leg. But then from the top of the hip, it joins onto the TFL, the tensor fasciae lata, and that's going to come across diagonally and end up on your ASIS, your front of your hip bone here. So you're just following that onto your TFL muscle. I'm slightly forwards, and you'll probably feel that flicking over a little bit. And if I just roll that forwards a bit so I don't have to run out of room, and come all the way through onto the top of the hip there, and back up. You can also roll it slightly forwards, all the way down the thigh, and then we're changing. Now when we talk about the IT band, say it's a fibrous sheath that the muscles join onto. It's kind of like the muscles which do the work of joining onto the IT band. But the IT band's just kind of a lever, something that the muscle can pull on. So it doesn't actually stretch, or very minimally. So when we say we're rolling out and stretching the IT band, we're not really. We're stretching the muscles around that. So we have the vastus lateralis on the outer, by the name of the vastus part of it, it's telling you that it's probably the largest thigh muscle, and it goes all the way around the outside of the leg here. It wraps all the way around and down the front as well, but keeps to this outside. And so the IT band is actually sitting on top of that. So we're pressing into that muscle as much as anything, and it intertwines as well, wraps itself around the IT band, so it has a definite effect on it, from my point of view anyway. A lot of time people just talk about the TFL being the thing that's going to affect the IT band, and also the glute max, which attaches it to it from the back. So say if you don't release the TFL, then you're not going to get any release on the IT band. But I think the vastus lateralis down the side of the leg, I see I have my foot around the back here, I mean I chop and change, but you can bring it over to the front again. But yeah, from my point of view, the vastus lateralis has just as much effect on the IT band. So again, you just move that up and down until you get to the stage where you're feeling that that's eased off around 75%. And hold any tight spots, you can just hold it there and relax. Okay, I think that will do. I think I've talked you to death on that one. So if you can stand yourself back up. So what we're going to look at doing now, we've done the massage and the release, we're going to look at stretching that area. And I left doing the shin sort of separately, the same as I did previously from the more posterior part with the back chain here, so that we can stretch them both at the same time. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my left foot across my right foot in front of it. Now if you're really struggling with this position, you can either support with a wall here, or you could just push the hip over, because if you're struggling to step across anyway, likelihood is you've got a very tight so say IT band, but lateral tract down here, whichever's pulling on that. This area is going to be very tight for you, but if you can step across here, and I'm using my left foot as it steps across to balance me and stop me from falling over this way. And if you look at the shape of the body there, I've got a very definite kink here as my hips pushing out. So if I'm focusing on stretching the side of the hip here downwards, then I want to do that. But then there's no harm in placing your arm up as well, and then reaching away, or reaching over the opposite direction, because then the natural fascia in the body is pulling all the way down here, and it's sort of restricting this from stretching too far down. How's the music for you, Marion? Is it too loud? Good. Okay, we're changing over. So now we're going to step across the other side here. I'm just going to focus first of all on getting that hip stretched. And then you can reach up with the arm on the same side. The good thing with this stretch as well is you can always vary the angles. I suppose it's like any stretch, but you can vary the angles more. If I'm going straight sideways, I'm hitting the glute med on the side of the hip here, and if I push it forwards more, then I'm going to be hitting the tensor fascia lata on the front of the hip more here. And talking about the glute med, we've kind of got this already stretching all the way down there. And another one I could have added in here, which I meant to, was the glute, is to roll the glute med first of all. So if you've got yourself a ball, tennis ball or something similar like this, now what we're going to do is we're going to get this into this outer buttock glute med area here. Now everyone's going to be different to whereabouts they've been most affected here. The glute med, the glute min, which is slightly more forwards, glute minimus that is. And then we've also got the upper fibres of the glute max, which are coming around the side here as well. So either of those could be affecting this. And this muscle here is sitting underneath the IT band. So we've also got that all that interplay, and that can, if one of them's short, going from your top of your hip down to your femur. So if one of those muscles is short, then the other muscles that are in that same line are also going to be short. So, because the joints pull closer together, so you can't kind of have just one muscle that's the problem anymore, especially if it's been going on for some time. So we're going to bring ourselves down onto the floor again. Now I'm just going to keep the knees bent up here. It's not to be a particularly complex movement here. And I'm just going to roll back so I bring the tennis ball in so it's against the side of the hip here. And of course you want it onto the soft fleshy part. So you can find your hip bone, which is sticking out the side here basically. So your hip bone is where your femurs come to the top, so your greater trochanter bone. And then we're coming above that into the soft fleshy a bit, placed it on the floor. And then you can just roll onto the side there and lift your bottom up a little bit so you get the weight onto the tennis ball and have a little search around. And then you could roll more onto your side, so you're flat down, and then just move that around so the ball comes towards the front of your hip a bit more. And if you keep the knee up a little bit, it helps to soften the muscle tissue there. So you can't see the tennis ball here because it's come underneath my hip. Then you can lift up and you can search towards the back there and just move that around till you find the most tender spot. And you can hold that there, you can move a little bit. Remember, you're trying to coax that muscle into relaxing. And you won't do that just by hitting it too hard. If it's very tender, you try rolling around on it too much and moving about, it's going to complain and it's going to be counterproductive. Okay, so do that, then just flip around, do the same thing on the other side. Again, you could find this very tender if you've not done this before. So it's into the side of the hip there, above my femur bone there, the top of the femur. And then I'm just going to roll onto that and trying to control it. Move around. Place the leg down flat. If you're really flicking over the glute med there, you'll find there's a very sort of hard ridge of muscle, fibrous tissue coming down, which is maybe even the IT band as it attaches. Then if you bring the knee up closer towards your chest, that will relax that a bit more, and you'll find you'll be able to, because it just lets the muscle sort of come back together more. Just move that around again until you find that it's releasing a bit. Okay, good. So put that all away. Stand ourselves back up. So you could have a little listen again into that same stretch. Push the hip out, and you might well find that that's released that area a bit more. You might find that it stretches a bit further. And we talked about pushing the hip forwards. You might find that was the TFL more to the side or back. Yeah, and on mine there, I'm feeling that TFL hitting a bit more. So what I would do is I would come back down and I would put that tennis ball more towards the front of the hip here. Yeah, so it's not now going back underneath onto the side. So it's now facing on the front. Rest myself down and slip onto the front of it. So this is so we can come back into this position. This is a very good one as well for the TFL. It's talking about releasing the TFL specifically. That little top short muscle which goes from the ASIS diagonally down. That's your ASIS is the front of the hip bone here, a little knob a bit on the front. Goes directly down and joins onto that sort of greater trochanter area. So I'm getting just on there, slightly more towards the front if you need to. And then once you've got that, you'll know it. Have some tenders, but if you've got problems with it especially. And then what you can do is you can try to slide up your knee. People sometimes struggle with this, and I'm keeping my left foot on the floor here, pushing down. I'm keeping this gap between my leg and the floor, so I can slide my right leg through it. And then back down. And up. And back down. Then you can extend the leg as far back as you can behind you. And again, what we're doing here is we're pinning and stretching it, so we're keeping that under pressure and then getting the muscle shortening and lengthening as the muscle fibres are being pressed against the bone there, so it's forcing them to sort of react. And then you can get up again. You could step across and you could do that same stretch off to that diagonal. Okay, and then listen to that difference again. How's that made a difference? Have you got onto that? So at the end of the day, it's very personal to you as to what muscle fibres particularly are getting in the way of joints moving properly. Okay, to finish up on the releasing part, we're coming up into the QL that we talked about earlier. So the QL is, look from the back here, and we find our hip crest at the top here. They're attaching a reasonably broad attachment on this side here, probably a couple of inches width, 2-3 inches width, and then they're going diagonally towards the middle of the spine here, and they're attaching to the vertebra, or the lumbar vertebra as they go up. I think, I can't remember exactly which ones they're attached to, but I think they come about halfway up, so maybe something like L1 down to L3. So they might be thinking, no they're not, but whatever it is. But they come up diagonally and they attach onto some of those vertebrae. So what we're going to do is we're going to place the tennis ball into the groove of the back there. Okay, so it's kind of locked itself in. So you've got that, if you think you've got your spine coming down, then you've got to the side of your spine, you've got the lobe of the rectus spine line muscle. We're going to go to the outside of that, and then into that little groove in the back, like a little notch. And then we can come down. So I'm just keeping that on there for you so I can show you that it's still in there. And then you place it into there, and then rest yourself down onto that tennis ball or the ball you're using. And again, just move yourself around until you're feeling that you feel it can be quite tender, and you can come very low down so it's the ball's down pressing against the top of your hip crest, or you can roll a bit further up so it comes up towards your rib cage a bit more. And you often find you get a few trigger points, lower and higher, whichever's kind of the worst, go to there first of all, and then move that around and just get that to release off nicely. I'm not going to spend too long here. Okay, and then I'm going to change over to the other side. Let's just spin that around so you can see placement again. So I'm going into that knot so it hits in sideways and stops. Resting myself down, and then turn over and get that into there. And again, just move yourself around. Okay, good. Let's get ourselves up. So we've worked all the way up from that lower section up to the top here. We're going to end this up here with a stretch on that same area. So it's quite common sense really. So again, if I just get the arm up here, and you could do the same thing with this stepping across, but what I'm focusing more on here now is flexing to the side, so I open up the QL and the side muscles down here. You can have a turn away from that group as well, so you're rotating, in this case I'm rotating to my left, so you're opening the back up. And try to just kind of relax the back, you can sit into your legs nicely. And change to the other side and stepping across, up. And it's good doing these same stretches and kind of repeating them. You can bring the arm over the head as well if you like, it's kind of carrying on the lateral line stretch through the tricep. Yeah, so it's good to repeat these same stretches after you've done these different releases, and you can see what parts are making more of a difference when you do the stretches again. Okay, so we've stretched the hell out of that, which is good. Now I'm just going to do away with the mat here. Now I've got this freed up, what I want to do is I want to start moving these muscles. I'm going to do this to start with one of these cog exercises. So we're just going to stand with our feet hip width apart, toes facing forwards, and stand up straight. Okay, and then we're going to bend the knee on this side, and we're going to keep the legs straight on this side. Now, if you did the fitness one, which Marion actually did, we did this as part of the warm-up, but teaching this here is a more very specific, with a better quality in the technique. And we can use these as exercises corrective exercises like we're doing here to improve any ailments that we've got, or we can use them as part of a warm-up in an exercise. So the more you know about what you're doing, the more you can break it down and you can speed it up when you get better with them. Okay, so they can start by rehabilitating and end up being really sort of productive. So So we've got legs straight on this side, knee bent on this side. And I'm just letting the hip drop down on the knee bent side. So we're sitting on here, so my hips are now tilted like this. And then I'm going to change to the other side, let this one just drop down here. So I'm kind of starting with the back here, letting it go. I'm stretching the back on this side when I'm on this one now. So I've got my left leg straight here, I've got my right knee here bent. I'm stretching the back here, the lumbar area, we've just been with a tennis ball. And I'm stretching also the glute med and the IT band, or that muscle line down on this side. Then I'm going to change to the other side. So I let the left hip now drop down. And now I can also slide down the leg towards this side. And then change and slide down the leg towards the other side. And the head is coming back up to face neutral. And this is how our body kind of works naturally. So we're really taking our time with these. And on the right leg again, left knee's bent, and then change to the other side, right leg straight, left leg straight, right leg bent, and then change. And I'm making sure as well, if I did this side on, that I'm not turning and I'm not folding forwards or back. So you keep the bottom tucked under, the core engaged here, the head up and the chin in. And then I bend one side, bend the other, and I'm trying, hopefully it looks right to you, I'm trying not to do anything else other than just this lateral or sideways movement. Again, I face in the front, so I'm down straight with the right leg, bending the left knee, and then change. And I can gradually slide that hand down further. And what I like to do with this as well, that encourages the stretching in the lower back, is they've got this kind of idea of a rib shift left to right here, which some people really struggle with. Okay, so I'm literally just shifting my ribs from one side to the next, rather than doing a side bend with that technique. So if I now go back to my right leg straight, left leg bent, I'm going to try to rib shift a little bit to the right hand side first, and then stretch down towards my foot on this side. So I'm kind of forcing my lower back to do more stretching, more opening, rather than just doing it right in my thoracic spine here. Then come across to the other side, sit down that left leg, then I'm slightly side shifting my ribs over to the left, then pulling down and opening up my lower right lumbar, then across and pull down. And these are like little explorations, so there's nothing to say what you should and shouldn't feel. Everyone's going to be a bit different. But take your time with them, feel the movements, listen to what's happening in your body. Okay. Now you can sort of speed those up and go more flowy as you go through them, and you feel it's loosening. Okay, so that's that moving from here in the quads. The next one is, we bring the legs wider here. Now I'm going to go back to these, the hips are what I call hinges. So now we're going side to side, but we're now keeping the torso straight, and we're just leaning in towards the inside. Torso stays straight and we lean towards the inside. So push across so you can feel the adductor stretch on the inner thigh, you can feel that outside hip stretch. Then we can lift the arm up as well, so we can incorporate the arms into the movement as well. And the head comes back up to neutral. But my torso staying straight, so I'm not bending down, I'm not bending back, or say I'm not side bending right or side bending left, I'm keeping the torso straight. And then trying to lift the arm up as I go from side to side. So the arm lifts up towards the side you're dropping down to. And we're then also opening up our shoulder blade and our side as you're doing that movement. It's just adding something else in to counterbalance the body and get the shoulder working by itself in that lateral line. Okay, so working through our hinges like that. What we could do as well is we could step across like we did in our stretch, and then we can step back out again. So we can use this now as a dynamic exercise, push the hip out and step back, and then we can add in the arm, so we can step across and we can reach up on the same side we're stretching and down, step across, so it's forward, reach up and stretch and back, step across, reach up and stretch and back, and then we can change to the other side, step across, push the hip, reach up and stretch and back. So we're going to try to get the timing together so that everything kind of stretches and gets its end point at the same time. And down, step across, stretch and back, step across, stretch and back, step across, stretch and back, step across, stretch and back. Okay, so another one we can do is what I call throws. So nice and wide with the leg here. This is more getting a bit more dynamic and flowing with the movement. So we're going to just sit across to one side, so I'm keeping the toes both straight, sit down into the leg, arm goes over the head, the other arm comes up the back. So I'll show you this from the side. So I'll go over to this side. We're trying to get a nice straight line up through the body here. Arm goes up around the back, the other one comes over the top here. I'm going to push to the other side, sit into the leg. Try to relax into this leg. So we're doing lots of things here, but if we do, you can leave the arms just for a second. Let the knee sink forwards, the butt goes back. So from side on, yeah, see the ankle joints getting quite close down here. Knees coming forwards, and I'm letting the ankle joint close together, stretching the calf and the Achilles heel, and getting the thigh to work well here. Okay, and push off to the right again, and I'm just going to incorporate the arms into it. So I sit into the motion, let the foot relax, so it's stretching, it pronates the foot. That's the arch flattening down, if you don't know what pronation means. Over to the left, and I'm trying to get this straight line going up through the side. Over, and again looking at timing. Breathe with it, nice stretches. One more. So again, you could work through these and continue them to whatever pace you like. So I'm just going to finish on one thing here. So if you've got a step, you've got your step Marion, put this down on the floor facing forwards like this. So just one little edge here, so you could use a stair step or something like that. I want the foot facing forwards. I'm just going to come up onto the step of the block here, and I want this leg here to work for me. But I want to let the foot sink down so it's pronated and it's flattened with the arch into the deck here. So again, if you do this well, it's going to work much better. So a lot of people ask them to balance, they come over onto the outside of the foot here because they're afraid of falling back in here. So they stay on the outside and they're balancing on the outer edge of the foot, but we don't want that. Now when the foot comes down and we're walking, it pronates in, collapses down, and the MPJ, which is the metatarsal phalangeal joint here, presses down into the floor, and that stops us from falling in. So we should pronate the foot, and then we supinate again as we push off. So this part's like that transition where we rest the weight down into that side, and this is what should be happening here. So we're putting the pressure onto there. Then we can just lift the hips. So I'm going to put my hand on top of my hips here. Oh, losing the balance there. So at this point, this right leg straight, so it's the same as that exercise we were doing previously. The right hip's up in the air, the left hip's dropped. So now I'm pulling up the left hip and then letting that sink back down again. Pulling up on the left hip and letting that sink back down. And what's happening is my right glute med here is contracting, pulling together, and then opening up again as I sink down. And then my left QL here is contracting as well to lift this hip up on the side here and then back down. And of course we're also using our TFL at the front here, all this lateral line to lift and drop. Okay, so a few of those, we'll do it back on the other side. And again, try to keep your weight dropped in so that MPJ we talked about is pressing down onto the deck and stopping us from falling this way. What I like to sometimes tell my clients to do is to let themselves kind of fall in a little bit and feel that, push the floor and then contract and pull back again. So just like you're losing your balance a little bit. Yeah, so if you don't go that way at all, you won't feel that happening. Don't stay all the time on your safe side. So press up and then down. Lift up, the hip rises up and down. Up, rises up and down. Up, hip rises up and down. And one more. Rising up and down. And if you're really struggling with the balance on this, then good one to start with is just to lift up and then fall down again. Okay, so you just go up and wait until your balance is lost again. And let yourself go over to that side and just think, what's holding me up? What's holding me up? And if that MPJ isn't pressing down, allowing you to come back up again, then you're doing it wrong anyway. So if you can't balance and do that, then you can do that. The next stage is you could place your hand onto a wall or a surface on this side, so it's just maybe a finger or something to, yeah, so you're not overdoing that. Okay, so I think that's enough for our session today. So let's just place that back over here. So again, this is the second week of these sessions. We've got another 2 sessions left after this in the next 2 Wednesdays. So if you're in time to watch those and join in with them on Zoom, you can contact me beforehand and get in there before that. And that's my website address is Stuart Ford. So come on the bottom of the screen there, Stuart Ford. fmai.co.uk, and you can get in touch with me via the email address on there, and you can also see the rest of the stuff in here. If you put in a / coach in the box there as well, then that'll take you straight through the coach in the box section. Yeah, I hope you've enjoyed it today, and if you've not enjoyed it, then you probably won't be watching it again. But if you have enjoyed it and you're not in time to watch it on the Zoom and interact with me as well, then you can always see these as a pre-recorded video on YouTube. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll say goodbye for now.
It's gonna take time, focus and it'll be fine, girl.
Trying to figure out how I'ma get out.